Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Five Drinks at Midnight, the show we bring the questions, guests bring the drinks. We try to wrap up before midnight. We took a little summertime break, but we're back. And today we're kicking today's episode off with OJ Lima and Pierre Auguste, founders of Taste Select Repeat. Before we do, like and subscribe. It will really help us out. And then also, we're adding a new feature because our GoPros failed miserably throughout this whole entire process of the interview. So again, apologize to OJ and Pierre. But anytime you hear this sound, drink. Let's get started. Pierre and OJ, thank you so much for joining me. Five drinks or midnight, five drinks, five questions, midnight, whatever comes first. This time we actually might push midnight next. How you fellas doing? Thanks so much for joining me.
Great.
Good.
Excellent. What's our first drink?
We're gonna go with a little mezcal mule.
Excellent. Cheers.
Cheers. All right.
Okay, so
We've got the bottle.
it's a little weird of a first drink for guys that are known for bourbon.
That's true. It's true. We're definitely got a little bit more of a following for our bourbons and American whiskeys, but I think that this could be like the next frontier of spirits, and I think there's a lot of carryover between whiskey and the mezcals. But I'll let OJ go into it because I mean this is really more of a passion for OJ than for me. I'm just getting into the agave spirits, and I tell you that I'm loving.
Well, we do the bourbons, we do the ryes, we do the Americans. We've done some American single malts. We'll get into that a little bit later. But I really like the mezcals and tequilas. Tequila being a mezcal. And Pierre has some other spirits he likes, some other whiskeys, some international whiskeys, and so we're trying to broaden our horizons as to stuff that we're going to work on, stuff we're going to carry on the in the shop. So this is our first barrel pick of a mezcal. It's a 5 Sentidos Mexicanito, which is kind of an unnamed agave. It's a 8-year-old agave, and so this is our first pick. It's a really short order. We did it with this other group called Just Magay, I think is how she pronounces it. And this is dropping soon on the site. So this is our first shot at doing a mezcal pick. So we rolled the dice and try to figure out if we could make it happen. And we did this. When did we select this? It was in the spring.
Yeah.
It was in the spring. And Jason Cox, who runs this company, 5 Sentidos, we've had some of his products in the shop before. It's taken him a little while to get bottling and glass and all that in Mexico, and then it had to get imported, but we managed to work it out. So it's great to see. It's a nice new frontier for us.
Into question one then.
Okay.
Bit of an origin story. We always like to know where people come from. How'd you guys meet? And what made you want to decide to start Taste Select Repeat?
I like to let Pierre tell this because he has a whole mythology that he's constructed, and actually, now that he's told it a few times, I kind of like it. So I figured
I've got a different perspective.
Alright.
Because we are two different individuals, and going back in the day, and it escapes my memory the exact year and month and whatnot, but I remember it was somewhere around DIY 3, I want to say. But in any event, local shop in New York City, 58 Wine and Liquor, run by our friend Sean. I frequented that shop because I knew him to have a decent whiskey selection, amongst other things. So I go in there every now and then and see what's new coming out, and he's always quick to tell everybody. He's like, "Oh, I got this coming out. It's gonna be the best. Whatever he's got coming out is the best."
ever. It's
Every time.
Right.
It's like, I got an Eagle Rare coming. Ah, it's the best. And she just released one? Yeah, but this one's better. Cool.
It's the best Eagle Rare in the history of Eagle Rares.
So any event, I go in there for this new release that they have, this DIY 3, which is another Whistle Pig release, and their DIY 2, the first release that they did together, OJ and Sean, was ridiculous. So I was eager to get in there. I get in there, talking to Sean, the shop owner, and I was just like, oh, it's cool, this is awesome. You guys got another one, like sticker, yada yada yada. Like you really need to get some photos of these. At the same time, OJ came in to pick up some bottles because it just got delivered, and OJ's in there, and I'm like, yeah, you guys need to get some pictures. Like I'll take some pictures, and I'm talking to OJ, but OJ's not really paying attention to me. He's just like, Sean, let me get these bottles. I got a jet. I got to get back to work. I got to do this. I got to do that. Making moves. And I'm just like, okay. OJ kind of steps out of the store, like doesn't say 2 words to me. I'm like, Sean, don't worry about it. I'll take some pictures, send to you. Hopefully you like them, whatever. So I get home all eager. I'm like, it's a cool bottle, cool sticker on here. And the sticker is like perfectly shaped for the bottle. Not one of those like just square slap-on stickers. I was just like,
That's what we call die cut.
Gotcha. I took some pictures, sent to Sean. Sean sent them to OJ. OJ's like, yo, these are dope photos. Holy shit! Like we need to use these. Yes. And then from there, like OJ and I kind of kicked up a conversation. We went down to one of my favorite bars. Kicked out some drinks, kind of,
Copper note.
chatted up a little bit, and from there I was just like, let's continue to kick it. They invited me on a couple other whiskey barrel selections after that, and then from there it's like, it's kind of history. OJ and I just kind of like clicked, and then I'll let OJ talk about how we went from picking with Sean to segue into our own thing.
Linking up at Copper and Oak, and then we and that's when we started talking about it. And then I was like, oh, yo, man, you should come and do some picks with me and Sean. And we all formed. And then the next one we did was it the Medley Brothers? Was that the next one we did right there at that time? Yeah, I think it was the Medley Brothers.
I think because Medley, even though it was 5, we picked that before.
Yes.
4.
Because that one took a little while, if you recall, for various logistical reasons.
Yep.
So at that point in time, I was investigating Finger Lakes Distillery. I was really interested in what they were doing. I heard they had some stuff. So I put in some calls up there, met the owner, and was interested. And the owner came down to New York. We met him in Sean's shop. He brought samples. Sean tried the samples and literally poo-pooed the guy out of the shop. Like, I don't like any of this. I was like, yo, man, I think you're being a little harsh. So I called the guy back up. And Karen was like, oh, I'd be interested in going up there. And what we realized was, like, we really liked the idea of, like, kind of mixing up some of the craft stuff with the big distilleries, the big ticket distilleries. And because we'd have more options and more interesting things we could do. Sean, at that time, he just wasn't willing to accommodate doing something that was craft, mainly because of his floor space. So we linked up and went up to Finger Lakes, and we were, I think, like the first group up there. We picked a weeder, and we actually ended up picking 2 barrels, and then we did 2 picks that came out of there. One that was a blend of 2 barrels, and then one that was what was the remainder of the wheat, the 6-year wheat that we selected. And at that point, we started to talk. All right, what do we want to do? Like, if we're going to be working with these other liquor stores, then we're always at the mercy of what the owners want to pick. And if we want to do craft stuff as well as big ticket stuff, we're going to be at the mercy of their economics for their shop. So maybe we should just do our own thing. And that was kind of the first when we started to when we first started to think about it.
Awesome. So the other thing to OJ's credit, and when I think back to it, it's like I realized one of the reasons why he was happy and eager to bring me into the picking with Sean is the concept that if you have an even number of people picking, how do you tie break?
Okay.
So having me as a third wheel helps break that tie, which was a lesson we learned very early on when we went to Finger Lakes, because we were supposed to have 5 people, ended up only being 4. We ended up like split on 2 barrels, which is another reason why we ended up picking 2 barrels.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's a little pro tip for you.
Always
You gotta pick a barrel,
Keep it
have
on.
an odd number of
Well,
people.
Keep it on.
being a guy that was one of the odd people, I totally enjoyed the picking, so very nice. Well, that's question 1, super easy. We got the origin story down, so now we're good. On to drink 2.
Right. Is it disappointing that like neither of us got struck by lightning, were experimented on by the government, or had natural mutant powers?
No, I actually kind of like the idea that you snubbed Pierre in a liquor store and didn't even bother talking to him.
I don't even remember that happening. Here we go.
On to drink 2, question 2. What are we drinking?
We're drinking our Wilderness Trail single barrel rye. This is a sweet mash. We call that a Kentucky.
Kentucky
Rye.
style rye. Some high corn content for rye.
4 years, 7 months old. And if you're not familiar with Wilderness Trail, they are legit scientists and doctors putting this stuff together.
All right. Cheers, fellas.
Yeah. Cheers. 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 I'll be honest, this is like my favorite new category of whiskeys that I've tried, which is, I keep saying this in Kentucky style rye, but, where everyone is always like, we think of rye, we think of the Indiana style, the MGP style that was made famous, the 95% rye, 5% malted barley, or even the 95% rye, 5% malted rye, that 100% rye. Right, and so like all of Whistle Pig obviously came from that MGP style. Everything that was sourced as craft came from that MGP style. And so in Kentucky, they have this style that they do where they have, they basically take a bourbon and they just flip the corn and the rye ratio. So 50 plus percent rye instead of corn, and then 30 plus percent corn instead of rye, and then the rest malted barley. So when you get these ryes, these Kentucky style ryes, it's like they really do, like they drink like more like a bourbon than like what you would think of as a rye. They're not overly spicy. They have both savory notes and sweet notes. And to me, like Wilderness Trail has the best of this style and all of the Kentucky styles, I'm just a fan. And in this particular case, when we picked this one, you remember this was an experimental proof for them. They weren't really doing it at this proof. So this one went into the barrel at 105 proof, came out at 107. But most of the time they barrel their ryes at, I think it's like 110 and above, 115. So this was an experimental version for them, but because that's our homie over there who runs the program, he brought us out some really interesting stuff to try when we were there to do this.
This is damn good. And do you like because most of your stuff is around the 100 range. Is that your kind of sweet spot for your flavor, your tastes? Not question 2, but more
I mean, honestly, I really don't think about those numbers. I'm thinking about the taste more than anything. There's times where a proof may be advantageous to be higher or lower, but typically in most of the barrel selections, I'm like we go in completely blind. We don't even want to know what the proof is when we go in to taste these. We just want to pour them. We'll smell them. We'll taste them. We'll try and pick out what we like or what we don't like, and move on from there. And then hit us with the all right, this was this age, this was this proof, this was mash bill and everything else. But I'd rather not know about it up front and then take it just on the taste and go from there.
nice.
Yeah, we pretty much don't know age, we don't know proof, we obviously we don't know location or any of that other stuff. there have been times where, like, you know, when we did the pick with you, where I always try to give input to the distillery before we pick on either stuff we've had from them that we like. So I can say, oh, I had a pick that so-and-so did. I know it was in this warehouse and it was, here's the barrel number or whatever. Like, we'll try to give them some insight into things that we've had before we like. But when we go to try, we don't know what it is, where we do it completely blind. The only time I really think about proof is when I'm trying to figure out how many drinks I'm going to have, you know, whether or not I can get home. You know, and if you're good at, right, if they're good, right, so like that, you know, what's it called, the Middle West, like that one's a 120 something, and then the other one we did, the COVID killer, the Medley
Medleys,
Brothers,
yeah.
that was like almost 130. And we got Elijah Craig coming out, I think it's 130, might be 133 or 136, their first barrel proof ever, but they just don't drink like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, so you touched on it a little bit, OJ. Starting to see a massive boom of craft distilleries, not only just popping up, but really taking notice and winning like a shit ton of awards across. Where do you guys see like craft distilleries going like next? Or
American craft to me is on the come up, in particular the bourbon and rye. I think the American single malt is going to take a little bit more time because it's just something, there's a lot of styles and techniques there that I think we just don't know yet in America, right? And a lot of work that can be done there to improve the American single malt space. I think it's ultimately going to be good, but it's like in its nascent stages right now. But in terms of craft bourbon and craft rye, right, and American whiskey that's derived from bourbon and rye, like these companies that started out, right, they're in there like 5-6 year, they've got 5-6 year product now. And that's an excellent space for a bourbon or a rye, right? It's plenty old for a rye, and it's good age for a bourbon. Like most of the bourbons I find myself drinking are like high end 12 years, low end 4 years. So anywhere in there, you can get some really great stuff. So all of these producers now are on the tail end of 4 years and change, right? It's like everything you see when we go to do our barrel picks is, you know, 4 years, 5 months, 4 years, 6 months, all the way up to 6 years plus. So I just think there's, you know, where years ago they didn't have the product yet, you know, now they got it. And and people planned years ago to barrel enough so that they would have it and they would have enough to age and still distribute. So while there isn't a massive amount because there's so much growth in the industry, like the aging part of it, a lot of these craft distillers finally have that part of the bag. So there's just a lot of options out there, and you know, for my money, like you can always find a really good craft distiller now, whereas you know before you just couldn't.
I also think that the playing field is becoming a little bit more level. You know, in the past, bigger companies had a lot more technology and thought going into this, and they had the background and the history, whereas now you have some of these small distilleries that can afford to get a gas spectrometer to figure out, okay, what should this whiskey look like from a molecule standpoint versus, you know, all right, where do I source the grains to put in here and make sure that I do that right. So I think the playing field is becoming a little bit more level in the availability of, you know, technology to make these products similar from a chemical standpoint.
Yeah. And the innovation is also in the craft area because they can, right, they're not burdened by bottling lines and supply chains and all these other things, right? So like what they don't have in size, they can make up for in speed, right? So and this is the reason why we love doing craft picks. It's such a weird word now. It's like, craft bartender, cocktail maker. Like you can go to a distillery that's smaller and say, I like that barrel and I like that barrel. Will you blend them for us? Can we try a bunch of different blends? Will you hold it for 4 months? Will you take it and put it in another barrel, you know, a PX barrel or an old beer barrel or something like that, and like do a finish on it? They can do that because it doesn't impact the way that they move their spirits like through their entire operation, as opposed to, you know, if you go to a bigger company, you go to Four Roses, you go to Wild Turkey, you do the pick. They have excellent whiskey. There's nothing to be taken away from that. But it's not like you can show up there and be like, can you just hold this in a barrel for like another year and like then we'll get it? Will you put the, you know, like that's just not, they're not capable of doing that because of their size. So
Smaller craft distilleries can pivot and accommodate much more so than the larger distilleries can.
So I like it, man, you know, and some of them are getting huge. Like Wilderness Trail is not a small operation anymore.
Yep.
It's a, you know, it's in the middle of nowhere, and you go out there, and then you're like, oh, damn, this is like a bunch of huge rick houses, and you know, like,
And they're building more.
and they're building more. So you know, and you know, the other thing is, there's also that I really like is there's a lot of craft that's in a less suburban, more urban environment. So like, you know, when you go to Middle West, that's like literally smack dab in the middle of a bunch of stuff going on in Columbus. You know, so everything doesn't have to be way out in the woods, way out rural in order for it to work. People are finding ways to use small spaces and to maximize those spaces to make good stuff.
All right. Question 3, drink 3. What are we drinking?
Well, so we did this thing. It was a fateful December 2020 where a certain person who will slightly remain nameless, but you may know who it is because his name is on the bottle. The one and only Whiskey Wednesdays trademark, registered, came and did a pick with us of Old Forester, our first Old Forester pick. And frankly, the best Old Forester picks that have been released yet, right? We went, everyone went right, we went left. Everyone went for the barrel proof, and we went for the 100 proof. Everyone went for the on trend, oh, it's barrel proof, we're gonna do that. And all of the barrel proof ones that I tried were like fire. And I don't know, maybe it's me lately or whatever, but like if your whiskey isn't super refined at that high 120 proof, like it's just not for me personally. Maybe for some people they like that, but it's just not for me. And all of the picks I'd had were, I think, not where they needed to be that proof.
So, interestingly enough, when we go back, you know, a question or two when we talked about, you know, proof, this is one of those situations where it was advantageous to us because we did some research, because we went out and tasted some other Old Forester single barrels, people that had selected barrel proof versus people that had selected 100 proof, and realized that, you know, there was something there to the 100 proof on these that, you know, to OJ's point, you didn't quite get with the barrel proofs. The barrel proofs were coming out super hot for us, and not really something that we really enjoyed. Come to find out later, as we all know, when we sat down and did the pick with Jackie, you know, the idea behind, you know, the barrels that she puts forward for the 100 proof are some of those barrels that are a little bit shorter in terms of the content and the volume, that, you know, may have had a little more angel share. So adding water to proof it down brings the volume back up a little bit, but you're getting some incredible single barrels that have incredible flavor because of that angel share and because of the, you know, evaporation of some of that content going through. So it's, you know, I think it worked out pretty well for us.
Damn right it did.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and this program, I you know, I don't know Jackie Zykamp personally, but I just think it's awesome what she's doing for Old Forester, because she is reinventing for them things that they've done in the past and creating new products and new ways of thinking about how they offer these products. Right, so if everyone recalls, Old Foresters before, you would do the pick and it was like a 90 proof. They would water it down to 90 proof, I think. So then they went, oh, we're going to offer the barrel proof. So everyone jumped on that train. But in between that, she was smart enough to say, I want to have a 100 proof offering. Everyone people get so nerded out about proof that like high proof is always better because they're used to some of these like Stag Juniors and all this other stuff that's way through the roof, hazmat. When I hear people say that, I automatically know that that's probably a bad whiskey that people just are not paying attention. They're just addicted to a high number. And so she totally vibed with us on it when she was like, very smart choice with what you guys are doing because this is exactly where I put the high angel share barrels. So the barrels with the most penetration, but the program is nascent, right? So you're going to be dealing with whiskey that's in the 4 to 6 year range. So to be in the 4 to 6 year range and be at such a high proof, like those got to be really great barrels to be at barrel proof. It's going to be super excellent barrels. So, after all our due diligence and research, and in fact, when we decided to do 100 proof, I hadn't yet tasted a 100 proof barrel pick from them. I had only tasted the barrel proof ones, and I was like, if this is hot for me, a guy who drinks this whiskey regularly, then like I know we should try something else. So I'm glad we went in this direction, and I think it also favored the pick team that we put together because Irish whiskey is, and my assumption is probably in this proof range. It's not in the 125 and up range.
No, it's not very high. They have lower. Like a lot of Irish friends think that this is just one crazy good, but also crazy dangerous.
Very,
like
very big.
yeah,
I think it's the blessing and the curse of American whiskey, which is that like it's built to withstand a high proof, right? And it is very American of us to go big, right? Go big, or go home,
Go
whatever.
home.
Supersize it, whatever. But interestingly enough, this is something that like Pierre and I have had conversations about, right? Because I really like my American whiskey. I don't really drink Scotch. I don't really drink Japanese.
Yep.
I don't really
Hate
drink
Irish.
stuff that's. No, I don't hate Irish. I just don't drink a lot of Irish. Other than Jamie, jump around. The lower proof stuff has just not really been on my radar because, right, when you're at that lower proof in bourbon, it doesn't reflect well for American whiskey, right? But it does reflect well for other world whiskeys. It doesn't, right? The lower proof is not great for American whiskey because it doesn't demonstrate the character of the whiskey. So you need it to bring that proof up a notch, right? But for other whiskeys that are different, that have a different mash bill, it can really work. So these are conversations that we're always having where I'm like, like I used to like this, I used to like that. And one of the reasons why I originally said to Pierre, you should come along with me and Sean, because when Sean and I used to do these picks, Sean would always gravitate towards the hottest joint that was there. He would always be like, I like this, it's fire, right? And that is the smoke wagon,
Yep.
like, give me big, give me bold, give me punch in the face, give me Rocky Balboa.
Yep.
Right? So it's like very stereotypically American. But for a lot of people, and in particular also people who are new to the category, like, what are you gonna do with the mega proof? What are you really gonna do with that? Yeah. Which one do you like? All right, so does everyone know we did 2 picks together?
yeah. But so that
We didn't even get to the whole thing that happened and the blah 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 blah.
But so again, yes, I am now on my second barrel pick. I'm fortunate and now very much addicted thanks to you guys. But is question 3 then? Do you guys have a favorite barrel pick?
Which one is your favorite?
I mean, of course, I'm going this.
Right, So try these and tell me which one is your favorite.
No.
Which one's your favorite?
I know which ones they are, but so again, the Women's History Month, the one that we did for February, for me still is too hot. Like it comes in, and even though they're barrels that are like 3 down from each other, and this one to me is it's still like if you say 100 proof, like this tastes 100 proof, whereas the Whiskey Wednesday pick, it just is buttery and like it's just down, like it's just so good. It's apple, it's orchard, it's just like that's just fucking good. Jackie did a damn good job. Like that is.
Yeah, they hired her for a good reason, right?
I mean, again, I want to be a master taster. Like that. That's kind of the.
It's an aspiration. It's a life goal.
But I mean, this still has a little bit of the tingly on it. Like it still is a little bit
So what is
burny going down. So
just out of curiosity, what is your like? If you had to average out what your average proof on something you drink is, where are you at?
Depends on what you're drinking at the moment, because like, you know, if I'm drinking single barrel bourbon, it's typically pretty high. If I'm going to something more mainstream, or if I'm going over to, you know, some of the Japanese whiskeys, you know, we're going back to 86, 84. You know, if I go to Cavalon, we're going back up a little bit. If I go to some scotches, we're coming down, unless I'm going to something that's more Isla, PD.
Look at this humble
You know?
brag over here. It depends where I'm at, what continent.
no, well,
No, but
I mean,
it depends on what you like. I mean, I you know, this is one of the interesting things between us is you tend to stay in your lane. You like your American whiskeys. I love to dabble in otherworldly spirits, you know, and in particular, and you know, we've had this conversation. You know, I love some of the Cavalon single barrels. I you know, I'm a big fan of peated Scotch. You know, and some of those things get up there, but you know, I like to bring it back down. You know, this is like some things I talk about, like, you know, open up a bottle of Hibiki the other day. I'm just like, it's good to reset and come back down and kind of like, you know, chill down at the lower proofs for a while and then go back into it and realize like the nuances between those different proofs.
yeah, I mean, I would have to say, like, I don't necessarily chase proof where, like, a lot of people are very much like, if it's not over 100%, I'm not going to drink it. Like,
It's ridiculous.
yeah, like, because again, like, that Middle West was just absolutely fucking gorgeous.
I
And,
thought,
like,
I thought you were gonna say it's not Irish, it's crap.
yeah, well, yeah, well, no, that's not true either. I mean,
No, I know, but let's think about the old skits. So.
yeah, but like,
I would say that I'm around. I levitate in the 100 to 110 space is where a lot of the bottles I'm enjoying right now.
Question 4, drink 4. What are we drinking?
This is the Hill Rock. This is cast number 1 that we did with Hill Rock. First joint on our own. Yeah, so interestingly enough, like I said, I've always been into a lot of the other distillates, not just bourbon, not just rye. I love single malts. And, you know, there's, to OJ's point, like I think that there's a growing opportunity within American single malts. Hill Rock is one of those distilleries that I feel has been doing it pretty well. And we were fortunate enough to go up there and do a pick with them. And, you know, they just talk about rolling out the red carpet. Like, they were just like, taste this, taste this, taste this, taste this. And I was like, all right, slow it down a little bit, but no, this is great. Like, they are incredible hosts, and we had a fabulous time up there, just talking with them. Much less like going through the whole thing of like, all right, and I have some pictures of OJ actually, you know,
saw them on the site.
going through the malt, you know, raking the malt,
Got to
and
do it with the slippers.
just incredible time up there. But yeah, so we went up there with the intent. I think we were trying to pick was it bourbon or rye at first, and then like we started tasting through some of the single malt stuff, and you know I kind of made the mistake of telling them how, you know, and people that know me know I am not a fan of Oloroso. Their single malts, they finish in PX and Oloroso. And it just so happened that when we went up there, it was still the PX, and it hadn't, you know, they had some that hadn't gone to Oloroso yet. I mean, story for another day. But they brought out like several different variations of Oloroso maturation. You know, here's just a few days. Here's, you know, extra. There's a week. Here's a month. Here's whatever. And I was just like, yeah, it's cool. Like, I see what you're going for here, and I think it's good. It just doesn't suit my palate. So, and again, you know, if we call them a craft distillery, but Hill Rock was like, all right, well, we have this that was only in PX. If you're good with that, you can have this that's only been in the PX, which is what we ultimately ended up going with. So I don't know if everyone just acquiesced to my limited palate, or if everyone else felt like, no, that's the way to go, and it's different, and it's you know, kind of unique.
The people at Hill Rock, you know, they have become like fam, and it's just great because they just ride for us. You know, like they really understand what we're about, what TSR is about, and they full on want to do whatever they can to make sure that we can be successful. So when we came up and Pierre was like, I want to try single malt, you know, and it was me, Pierre, right? Mike Weinman, Wound Up Whiskey. It was our other homeboy, Anthony, who was a beer guy from Other Half, right? Who people don't know. We went up and we did this, right? And we didn't think that we were going to do single malt. And this is not what people know us for. And we launched our whole business off of single malt. And we launched it with them with Hill Rock off of this particular bottle. It's really lovely what they do. I'm really excited about this, and this was new to me. When I tasted it, I was like, oh, I really enjoyed this, right? But it's not what me personally, what I would normally drink, right? So it was a whole new vibe for us, what we ended up doing. But they're just amazing people. They have excellent product. They have single malt, they have rye, they have bourbon. You know, we're going to go back there and we're going to do, you know, we've launched our business with Hill Rock. And, you know, we're going to have a product that we release for our 1-year anniversary that will probably be extremely limited with Hill Rock surprise, you know, whenever we end up doing it. But I was very happy to take a chance with them. And they also took a chance with us because the reality last year was we applied for our liquor license in March, right? And because of COVID and because all these government agencies have been shut down, we didn't actually get our liquor license until September. So we had been in talks with Hill Rock about doing the pick, right? But we didn't have a liquor license. So technically we couldn't even buy the spirit from them. We couldn't technically do the deal. But they were so cool that I was like, look, will you let us come up and pick? Will you let us come up and do the thing? And they totally allowed us to do it, even though we didn't have our license intact yet, with the hope that we were going to get it and we were going to be able to purchase it, right? So they let us come up and do the thing, and there were other distilleries that we contacted that wouldn't let us come up and do the thing because we didn't have the proper paperwork. So they let us come up and do it. We launched with them. We're eternally grateful to the Franklins for helping us get our company off the ground. And, you know, as weird as it may sound, that Tastes Like Repeat started with an American single malt, when we're known for bourbon. You know, there it is. So if you got a bottle of this, because there weren't that many, you know, that might be in a museum one day. Someone might call you one day and be like, hey, do you have this bottle? Because we want to put it in a museum.
Well, I think that leads perfectly into our fourth and kind of final question. So you guys are about to celebrate an anniversary. What's next? Like, you guys are about to release Mezcal. Like, what's next for TSR? Like,
Mars. We're going to Mars. Red Rocks.
I mean, that, like,
We're going higher than Bezos.
World domination, son. I'm going 70 miles out.
There's
Going 70
Branson,
miles.
there's Bezos, there's TSR.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
right,
I'm
right,
down. Like
right.
honestly though,
So what's next? And we're always gonna do this. Look, we have 11 barrels in the chamber right now that haven't been released yet. 11 that we're supposed to release this year, that we're waiting to be delivered to us that we've picked already, and they're really hard to get barrels. You know, like I we were talking about this earlier. There's no KI barrel that like not very many people are gonna get, and there's really only 2 shops outside of Kentucky that are gonna get OKI barrels. There's an Elijah Craig barrel proof. We're going to be the first place to ever release an Elijah Craig barrel proof single barrel selection. You know, we just have great stuff coming. You know, and that's what we're about. That's what we're about. We are trying to bring the best stuff that we possibly can. And we are trying to bring it to our particular people. We're trying to have a really inclusive environment. And, make sure that people have a good opportunity to get the best of the best stuff.
You know, to kind of piggyback on that and not to segue too far off that, one of the things that I think has really helped us throughout this whole process is the connections that we've made along the way. And people will tell you like whiskey is an experience, who you drink it with, when you drink it, for what occasion, whatnot. For us, TSR is kind of the same kind of notion. It's an experience. We've been fortunate to make some incredible friendships along the way. And we do not discount what those friendships mean to us. Like we've been able to get into places because of the friendships we've made. We've been able to pick barrels with companies that don't let too many people pick barrels because of the friendships we've made. And we're in a fortunate place to be able to do what we do because we continue to kind of foster those relationships and it's an incredible experience, and I'm having fun with it.
What
for sure.
Well, again, I think
It's a world tour, like Tribe said, it's a world tour, man. Well, it's beautiful, man. It is. It really is beautiful. It brings out all the best. It brings out all the best in me.
All right. So, on to our 5th and final drink. Final question. 5 drinks down.
Shit, wait, where's the pen? No, I got him.
What are we drinking?
All right, so we're taking it back to the essence, okay? So this is really like the bottle that put me and P on the map right here. That's a 6-year weeder from Finger Lakes Distilling. This is the one that we blinded against all the Wellers, that beat all the Wellers, right? So Weller Full Proof, Crafted Perfect Bourbon, 107, Reserve, Weller 12 year. And this was when we really kind of like solidified what it was we were trying to do. It really validated for us what we were trying to do, which was find stuff that was really, really good and maybe didn't have the shine, the look, and bring it to the people. So this is a 6-year weeder from New York State, right? Also not even from Kentucky. DIY 7. So back in the day, we used to, right? It would come like this. You would go into the shop or whatever, and it would come like this with the joint on it, right? Right, all fancy. But we stopped doing the labels for a little while because the distilleries asked us to stop doing the labels, not because of the stuff we were doing, because other people were like, I'm gonna put a Trump sticker on the bottle. So they kind of asked people like, just respect us and chill with the labels until we can figure out what this is. So this is an old school joint. This is bottle 16 of 172. Right, and back in the day when we did the DIY stickers, right, you would get it like this in the thing, and then you would sign it,
and then you would put it on the joint. So, you know, I'm gonna use my crappy handwriting.
I forgot.
Right. This is old school, man. This is how we used to. Yeah.
We had, what was it? What was the first one? Was it Hector Falls, and then we had Eagle Cliff.
Yeah. Okay. So here, you know what, man? I'm writing. Even though I'm doing it, I'm writing your name on it. So we're gonna go. We're gonna try it. Okay, but we only got room for this Whiskey Wednesday. Boom. Right. Whiskey Wednesday, because that's all this room.
Throw an S in there.
Right. Right. And this is how we used to do it when we did it. We literally stopped doing the stickers because people were doing such trash stickers that the distilleries were like, "Can you please stop?" So, you know, even though they loved what we were doing, they hated what everyone else was doing. So you would take it off like this.
We tried to be respectful
Right.
and offer up, you know,
Right.
stickers that seem like they belong on the bottle.
Yeah,
and
right.
Not just like, you know, Riff Pitino crap.
Right. It's like, look at this, you know, we would make stickers that literally were like same fonts that the distillery would use, same colorway, the whole shit. And the idea was you would get it for yourself, and it was really personalized, and it was for you, the person who bought it only, and that was it. And that was how it was done. So this was your bottle, never to be duplicated again, right? Never to be had. No one else could claim it. They couldn't resell it on secondary because it had your name on it. And then lo and behold, people start selling these on secondary for like $500. So, you know, it is what it is. But this is really the one that solidified our plan for how we're going to launch Taste Select Repeat. Somebody needs to call them and tell them to stop not taking my calls and let us come back and pick some whiskey because they're on some other shit. But, you know, still credit where credit is due. This is our 6-year weeder. Like, almost nothing has ever beat this bottle. So,
All right, well, fill me up.
if you got a bottle in your chamber that beats this bottle, I'd love to try it. This is one of the best bottles of whiskey, in my opinion, that's ever been released in the history of whiskey. So,
Right.
yeah.
Cheers,
I
fellas.
think I went heavy on that. But cheers.
Oh, it smells amazing.
Yeah. You know, and this is what we represent. We pulled a 6-year weeded bourbon out of the sticks in New York State.
Oh, that's fucking good. That's really good.
This one was 72 bottles. So if you got one of these, and this is one we dropped on seal box, this one sold out in like 5 minutes. If you got one of these, this is my last one, but if you got one of these, like, hold on to it because the Library of Congress is going to call you.
For real.
You know, you can make some that could be
Well,
in the net.
then even better, I feel honored that you opened it for us tonight. So cheers, because that was fucking amazing. So that's
Well, you know, it's got your name on it now, so you know,
We'll-
maybe you'll give me a pour off your bottle that you own now before I leave the house. But cheers, man.
we'll fix that so that we can get that off.
He's like, we'll scratch that out. But yeah, man, cheers, man. It's been a blessing to be here.
Oh,
Hang
thank you.
out.
Well, we're not over yet because we got one last question, which comes down to the flip of the coin question.
Okay.
You both got a Whiskey Wednesday coin. So, question 5. You can flip it, you can spin it, you can do whatever you want. Coin gives us the answer. You don't have to answer unless you feel compelled to. But is it true that you feel that you have a better palate than the other one?
Wait, then who? Do I feel like I have a better palate than Pierre, or does Pierre feel like he has a better palate than me?
Yep.
All right, so I got to flip the coin, and the coin's going to decide whether I answer it or
Yep.
whether it's.
Do I have to flip or can I just like?
Wow. What do you pick? You pick.
Fuck yeah, he already, he
Wow.
already threw it down. He already said that he's got a better palate than you.
Wow.
I mean,
You know what?
it's a, you know, luck of the coin.
Yeah,
I
I don't know. I'm gonna flip mine. I'm gonna flip mine. You
There
know
you
what?
go.
This motherfucker over here. I'm gonna flip mine.
Flip it. Slap it down.
Okay. Ball don't lie.
Fuck
Wow.
yeah.
Ball don't lie.
Wow.
Ball don't lie. Isn't that where Sheik Wallace says? So, but you know what? Here's actually the real answer to this, which is I think that we approach this stuff from different spaces, and this is what makes what we do, I think, better than most, right? We talked about this a little before with other people. Pierre has more knowledge of spirits than I do. I totally believe that. He drinks more. He tries more things. I'm more like there's stuff I like, and I try to ride in those spaces and develop my palate in those spaces. But my memories have a big effect on the stuff that I drink, and so when I try things, they affect me via memories, right? So if I try something and it tastes like popcorn, for instance, then it brings back a memory of like going to see Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus with my dad and my sisters and this and that, and a positive memory for me will evoke an interest in a bourbon, and then I will pick it based on that, right? And so those are some of the things that affect the way that I pick stuff. So when we do these picks, it's like I think Pierre brings like a really interesting perspective of a wide breadth of knowledge of different things. Of okay, I've tried a lot of crappy stuff. I've tried a lot of good stuff, and like I can totally judge and say I think this is good versus I think this is bad. Where for me, I look at it more like it brought back a good memory for me, and so therefore I gravitate towards the spirit versus just being like, oh, it tastes good or it tastes bad. So when you put those two things together, like it's a recipe to me for success in terms of like what we do and how we do it, right? Because it accommodates all of the the whole spectrum of like why people drink whiskey.
Gotcha.
Listen, if I can add to that, I'll say this: like, I all joking aside and me slapping the coin down, like I do not feel that I am better than any individual out there. I'm fortunate to be in the position where I am to do this. I enjoy doing it, and one of the things that's always kept me going is OJ's ability to say like, all right, great, hold up, like we've got a difference of opinion, or we have someone who thinks this. It could be me, it could be somebody else in our big team, and OJ will not discount anyone's opinion when it comes to picking something, and that's a trait that I hope to find someday. Um, maybe I'll get there eventually,
Or never.
but to OJ's credit, like that's what keeps us honest, because he's not going to discredit anyone's opinion on anything. If we have to read blind and taste things over and over again until we come to a decision, that's what it takes, and I appreciate that so much in him, and the way that he approaches the idea of selecting, a barrel or whatever it is that we're picking, and hats off to that, because it's kept us on the right track to recognize that every opinion matters. Nobody's palate is better than anybody else's. We all have opinions, and things affect individuals differently. But ultimately, if we go through the process, we're going to get to a consensus somewhere.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Hey, fun boys, get the room.
That's it. But we surround ourselves with quality and cool people that we love, and we do the best that we can. We bring all of our skill levels to the highest ability to everything that we do. And I feel very confident that because of the way that we approach it, like the stuff that we do is frankly better than the stuff that other people do.
Well, I think that's a great way to end the night.
Pierre, OJ, thank you so much for joining me on 5 Drinks. That's 5 drinks down, 5 questions answered.
Was it only 5 drinks?
Well, I mean, it was probably a little bit
It's
more.
not even midnight.
Right.
Super
it's not
close.
even- and it's
Like,
not even midnight.
Mission accomplished. Guys, go shop, taste, select, repeat. Get some bottles. Join the club. You're missing out if you're already not a member. Fellas, thanks so much for joining me. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Till next
Cheers.
time.